I knew I couldn't keep doing this. Like,
was it affecting your work?
I mean, not really, to be honest with you.
This is gonna hurt. It's time for the Suffering Podcast. The key component to any law enforcement officer being the best version of themselves is through education. Sherry Alsop is a leader in providing that education to police agencies, preparing them for the all too frequent dealings with sexual assault victims.
You've seen Sherry on episode 169 of the Suffering Podcast. She survived incest and almost daily sexual assault, so she comes from a place of experience and true understanding.
Sherry has the intelligence, commitment, and compassion to open the eyes of those on the front lines, while providing the tools to effectively deal with a difficult situation. Sherry's instruction comes from experience and multiple certifications.
Training with Sherry will offer on-site training, customized schedules, specialized instruction tailored from a victim's perspective.
You are going to hear Sherry's heart-wrenching but inspiring survivor story. Learn proprietary trauma-informed training techniques, uncovered victim-centered interview methods while earning continuing education credits according to your state guidelines. To be the best, you must learn from the best. Let Sherry also guide you through the delicate cases of sexual assault from a victim's point of view.
Be a source of comfort to those victims affected by these traumatic experiences while producing a solid investigation and uncovering details that often go unnoticed.
To find out more or to contact Sherry Alsop, go to sherryalsop.com. That's SherryAllsup.com.
But it was like on the weekends, I'd go out and party with my friends and stuff. And it was like, oh, let's try to get Keith to smoke weed. I would not do it. Like, I was like, this is what I want to do with my life. I'm not doing it.
So you were hyper-focused at a young age. What drew you to law enforcement? What was the draw?
I don't know.
Did you watch a movie?
You know what the first thing I can really think that really got me hooked on it was NYPD Blue.
With Dennis Franz and Jimmy Smits?
Yeah. I was like, I want to be a homicide detective. Like, that's what I wanted to do. But
see, I'll show my age. One of the first things that ever got me hooked on law enforcement.
Kojak?
Adam 12.
Oh, my God. Dude, don't ever say that out loud again.
I saw it on Me TV the other day.
Oh, my gosh.
Adam 12. And Chips.
And Chips. Oh, wow, Chips. Eric Estrada was hot. Yeah. Yeah,
but I mean, that was my goal.
Did you like his baloney too?
But that was your entrance into the world of police. And so how long did it take you did you take test after test? Because this seemed to be like a goal.
So I did go to college for like 2.5 years. And in college, I was taking criminal justice and stuff. And I went to Marshall University in Huntington, West Virginia. Yep. Well, Kentucky, right down the street, was having a test, and our professor was like,
You're right by the Tuck River.
Yeah, Ohio River.
The Ohio River?
Yeah.
Oh, where the Tuck's a little. I stayed near the Tuck River. Tuck River's Hatfield and McCoy's.
Yeah, that was up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I stayed right by there, and I was going to take a walk one day up the mountain. The guy's like, "Don't go up the mountain." He's like, "I said, why?" And he's like, "'Cause there's moonshiners up there. They'll shoot you." Yeah, that's a different breed of people over there.
But recruiters would come to the college campuses. And they're like, if this is what you want to do, like, why are you wasting your money on college? I'm like, hey. But that was also back in the day. I think that was 1998-ish, where they had 3 spots and they'd have 2,000 applicants. Yeah. And that's just unheard of nowadays. But I took the test and went through some of the process, didn't get selected.
But you got experience.
I did.
It was never wasted.
No. I moved back home to Richmond. Took a test down there. I passed the test. I had a horrible driving record because I did have a Mustang and I like driving it fast. So I had to clean all that kind of stuff up. And then right after 9/11, I applied up to one of the police departments in Northern Virginia and got on in 2002.
In which department did you get on?
It was the Airports Authority.
Airports Authority, yeah. And so I guess that would be equatable to our Port Authority. Our Port Authority. Because DC Metro, now we had a gentleman in here who started his career in DC Metro. Their pay structure is god-awful.
Crazy.
It's like 27 years to top pay. That's ridiculous.
And for what they see in DC Metro.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't hear all the stuff that goes down there.
Yeah.
Do you remember what your starting salary was?
32,000, I think.
That's
2002.
competitive.
2002, yeah.
That is actually competitive compared to up here, because that's, I got on 2001, I was 36.
I got on in 96, it was 24.
24,000.
24,000.
Yeah. But so you just keep taking test after test. You get on this police department, and what was your first real wake up call to police work?
So my first wake up call, I was on FTO and I was driving, and this car was going 30 miles an hour down the highway.
Naked guy running behind it?
No, not yet. And he was all over the place, man. He was just going like this, and we pull him over, and before I could even get my door open, his door's open, and it was a drunk guy. He had a machete, and I'm like, this can't be like happening right now. And then he dropped it and he fell down, and we arrested him. But that was like,
That's like the first oh shit moment.
Yeah, that split second was like, okay, this is real, you know.
You're not Jimmy Smits,
No.
Going after the event itself, taking the notes.
Yeah, so there's no commercial breaks.
Yeah, exactly. So you sort of had this holy shit moment with this wake up call, and I'm assuming did it change your mindset a little bit?
No, I mean afterwards, like the adrenaline dump was addictive. I mean,
did you ever get one of those calls, one of those hot calls after the call's over? You sit in your car and shake?
Oh yeah, all the time.
When I left and went to Richmond City Police, we had no pursuit policy, which was amazing. After every car chase, my right foot would just go like this.
No pursuit policy, so you could just go.
If they ran, you ran.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
it's crazy. You go to one of these high end calls, and people say like, "Weren't you scared?"
Not during the call.
You didn't have time to. You got back in the car, and as you were shaking, you were saying,
Yeah.
"Holy shit, that was crazy."
Yeah, it was close.
First time that ever happened to me, I'm like, am I a coward?
Yeah.
Because I'm
Yeah,
shaking,
right.
but that's not what's making you shake. It's that
Yeah.
high adrenaline. It's that adrenaline dump like you talk about. And it's the weirdest
it is.
feeling in the world. I think that the first time I ever felt it is I jumped out of an airplane, right? I had a parachute, so, spoiler alert.
Obviously, you're still here today.
I won, and I'm alive. But I remember hitting the ground and I couldn't stop shaking. I was like, what the hell is this? It's that adrenaline dump
Yep.
just coming out of your body. And then I experienced it. So I was somewhat familiar, but I remember first time it happened on a call, I just stood there and like this. I go, what the hell is this stuff? And then as you go move on, it just never happens again. It just slowly fades out.
Right.
With me, the adrenaline dump wasn't necessarily my hands; it was my legs.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
you
me
go to
too.
that crazy call,
Yeah.
right, and then you go back to headquarters, do the report, and I'd be walking to headquarters like couldn't move my legs.
So any other good calls in Richmond?
Oh, there's a lot in Richmond. One of my first ones that really got me like into.
Well, Richmond has its bad areas.
Oh, yeah, Richmond. Yeah, Richmond's pretty rough.
Yeah.
But the call that got me, like, where I felt like my first stick out your chest moment was, I was just cut loose off field training, running the highway, and this car came out for an abduction from King's Dominion, which was like 45 miles away. And they give me the tag in the car, and I'm running down the highway, and there's no cars. And I just see taillights up there, and I get right behind them. I'm like, oh, shit. I was like,
Check.
That's
I
the
was
car.
like, I get
check
on,
it, double check it.
I remember I get on the ramp. I said, "What did you say that tag was?" And they gave it. And I said, "I got the car." And one of the other officers was like, "Hey, man, they can't go anywhere because the middle lane's going to the airport. There's no exits." He goes, "Just let them go for about 4 miles. I'm right up here in the cutoff." So I went up there, and by the time I pulled them over, they had state police and us and Fairfax helicopters right above us with a big spotlight. I was like, "This is awesome!" Like that was.
Gonna get on Fox
Oh, yeah,
News.
Yeah. Well, probably not, but that was good. Richmond was rough. Richmond had
Confederate flags.
yes, a lot of monuments. They used to have monuments.
They used to have monuments, yeah.
But it was I think we averaged when I was there a little over 100 and some murders a year. So we had one every 3 or 4 days, but there were some pretty bad ones.
So you have this police career, but it seems to be going in the right trajectory, but at some point it takes a turn. What was your coping mechanisms when you were younger? You're a young kid.
Yeah.
We're all boneheads when we're younger. We think we can handle anything, and it's not until things get out of hand that we realize that we can't.
I mean, early on, drinking became a pretty regular thing in policing. We used to have choir practice in the parking lots 3 nights a week. I mean, sergeants, we all just sat back there after third shift at 11 o'clock and drank and had a couple beers. Nobody got messed up. Had a couple beers and just kind of talked about
It was
the
like
day.
decompression time.
Yeah. And, that kind of went away. And then in Richmond, I worked the 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. shift. So we get off at 7 a.m. We'd go to 3rd Street Diner. It's open 24 hours a day. And they would have happy hours at 7 for like the hospital workers. So we'd go there at 7 in the morning and have bacon and eggs and Jack and Cokes and stuff. And it just became kind of like a regular thing. And I remember getting in a fight with my wife because I came home at 7. She's a teacher. She was getting up to go to school, and I crack her. She's like, I was like, this is my 7 o'clock at night. I could make excuses for anything to have a drink, but it wasn't a problem. It was just kind of a
routine.
Yeah, have one or two.
But it's a shame, too. You remove that alcohol from those situations, and you have a very valuable team-building skill because an officer, you'll get together and you can decompress. You can talk about your day. You can have some fun, normalize yourself before you go home, and then that way you don't bring as much of the job home. Remove the alcohol, but unfortunately, cops seem to gravitate around alcohol.
Yeah, but you never heard cops say, hey, let's meet in the parking lot for a couple sodas.
Right.
No.
The other thing was very early on in Richmond, we had just gotten married, and I remember coming home, and I'm like...
So your wife married a cop.
Yeah.
She married a cop.
So we met in college.
Right.
We dated for 6 years, 5.5, 6 years, and then we got married the year after I graduated the academy.
And there's a reason I say that because you get married before you're a cop and then become a cop.
Yeah.
The divorce rate's much higher.
Well, we were together for a long time before
Yeah.
I was a cop, but yeah, we got married after. But I remember coming home and I'm telling her all the cool stuff because, you're in your 20s and you're running and gunning and it's all cool. And I remember she looked at me and she's like, I don't want to hear it. She goes, I worry enough that you're gone all night. I don't need to hear details of what you do every night. So that also kind of shut a door because now
you have nobody to talk to.
I mean, it's not her, I get it.
She just told you that I don't want to hear about the heart because I worry about you. But to you, that's sharing your life with your partner. So to you, you're looking at it from a different perspective than she is. She doesn't want to worry any more than she already does. But to you, I'm doing this amazing thing that I'm so proud of, and I want to share that with you. So that's a miscommunication.
Yeah. But I mean, sometimes, you don't want to go home and tell her about the dead kids and the this and that either. It's just something you just didn't
you hit the edit
about.
button.
Yeah.
You have to hit the edit button.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt.
So at what point did you find that it started to get out of control?
We moved back up to Northern Virginia. Richmond just wasn't working out. Got my job back with the Airport Authority. Did 2 more years on patrol. Then I got assigned to the detective division and moved to the FBI JTTF. And I love that, man. I know you've had a couple guys on your show.
Recently.
That's one of the best positions. That was the best position I've had so far.
So we've had Tom Smith, Angel Masonette, and Kenneth Strange.
Yep.
So yeah, we have some JTTF alumni in here.
But I was out of the Washington D.C. field office. I got assigned to the domestic terrorism squad, but it was also kind of like a response squad. So if any big event happened, our squad would get pushed out with another squad to determine whether it was,
And you're pretty much still on high alert because this is post 9/11.
Yeah.
So
it was that, and then right into the ISIS era. But it was fun. I did a lot of cool stuff with them. But the big turning point, I think, and I try to go back, and I mean, it was always progressing a little bit progressing. And then the Navy Yard, the active shooter at the Navy Yard in 2013.
That's not that Beltway sniper.
No, that was 2002. But 2013, this Aaron Alexis went into the Navy Yard with a shotgun and just started shooting people. Well, I was at work early for some reason because I'm never usually early. But I remember my boss coming out and they were like, active. We had radios from all the MPD guys, so we heard it come out. And my boss was like, go. So I looked at one of the other JTTF guys. That was an MPD police officer. I was like, let's go, man. So we just grabbed our go back. So we went. And I remember we pulled up to the gate, and we got there really early because we were only a couple miles away. And I remember I put on my vest. And I've never, you usually don't have time to think about it. I remember putting on my vest. I'm like, why am I even putting this on, dude? Because the call came out for 2 men with AK-47s. I'm like, well, I don't even, it's not going to do anything.
Just going to put a hole in the vest.
But plainclothes, had the the vest on that said police, and we go running down the 2 blocks to get to the building, and the MPD commander didn't want to let us in because we were in plainclothes, and he finally said yeah, but so he let my partner go in with the first team of 5, and I went in the middle team with the second team of 5, so we were kind of sandwiched in between uniforms. But that was really weird for me because it was 90% of the deceased people had point blank shots to the face. And, I saw a lot of homicide in Richmond, but it was kind of like, all right, well, that's the game. You're in the drug game and you get shot, but this was like,
these were innocent victims.
these were like 50, 40, 50, 60-year-old people in dresses and suits sitting at their desks and it was just weird, So that one kind of hit me pretty hard. After that, I remember we were leaving, and I was like, Shay, we got to go get something to eat, dude. It's got to be lunchtime. And I looked at my watch, and it was like 5 o'clock at night. Like, we had been there all day. And I looked at my phone, and my wife had called me like 18 times because she was like, once I heard, I knew you were going. So I finally called her, tell her I was okay and everything. But we got back to the office, and they were like, you need to write down everything you did and saw, because we didn't report to the command there. We didn't do 100% what we were supposed to do. We just kind of went in.
Little rogue.
Yeah, that's exactly what they call it. But I remember looking at him, and he looked at me, and like, we're just staring there with blank. Like, I don't know what I just saw. How am I supposed to write down what I just saw? So he just looked at me, he goes, bar, and I'm like, yeah. And we just left. And
no critical incident debriefing, nothing of that. It's just, this was your job.
That was it. We had one of my supervisors back at the PD said, are you okay? And I said, yep. And that was the only conversation I had.
And again, the biggest lie ever told by a cop.
Yeah, I'm all right.
Yep.
Are you okay?
I'm sure. I'm
okay.
Fine. I'm fine.
But after that, everything kind of escalated a little bit. I had an injury, bunch of messed up discs on my back. The doctor gave me opiate, Percocet. Oh, first time I took it, I loved it. I fell in love with that crap, dude.
Yeah, your body feels good. You sleep well.
Exactly.
Get on the phone with your father. Hey, Dad, give me some of these Percocets.
Right? he had sold his pharmacy my senior year, but it turned the machine off at night, and that was the most important thing. Like, it just turned it off, and I could sleep, and I could wake up, and I had a full night's sleep, and I was like, this is the miracle drug for me.
And when you're having a little bit of a rough day, you take an extra one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that game.
Have one, take a couple beers.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember
that's the enhancer.
Yeah, I remember going to my doctor and telling him, I said, man, I think I'm getting hooked on this stuff. He goes, why? It's like, one's not doing it. He goes, no, you just need to up your dose, man. I was like, okay. And really, at this point, addiction never even crossed my mind because I'd never done drugs.
So when opiates came out in the medical field, do you know the initial studies said that only 1% of people are going to become addicted to them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how big of scumbags the pharmaceutical companies are.
They're only looking for the money. They don't care.
And then they come up with the drug to get off of the drugs that they make.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then after I rode that train a couple more miles, I took it off the tracks, man. I knew I was messed up on it. I didn't care. And that's when all the big problems started happening. After I was on them for a while. I knew I couldn't sustain this. And
did you ever try to kick it?
Yeah. Yeah.
And what happened?
I didn't know what it was at first. I was like, why do I always get the flu when I don't have my medicine? Well, it finally, it kicked in. I was like, dude, you're dope sick, man.
Yeah.
And
can't sleep.
Body aches. It's horrible.
The best way I described it is it's like spiders are crawling all over you, but it's not spiders. It's more like they're in your skin, and you just can't relax.
You can't. And your stomach is just doing flips. And
then there's the constipation.
Yep. So
people don't talk about that. Opioid-induced constipation, OIC. They'll identify it on TV as OIC.
So I thought OIC was officer in charge. Now it's opiate-induced constipation.
It's the real thing, man. As a matter of fact, did you ever see the movie Chips, the new one they made with
not yet.
Dax Shepard? Mm-mm. He's this ex-motocross guy, and in order to even get on the motorcycle, he's got to take a handful of oxys. And his partner asked him, was like, when's the last time you took a shit? And he goes, I'm normal. I took a shit last week.
It's accurate.
Oh, yeah, it's very accurate.
Just think how much you save on toilet paper then.
Yeah, but it comes out like a stick of dynamite.
It does. It's yeah.
It's not to get too gross, but it's the real thing. Like, people don't understand. Like, there are so many different side effects to this damn opiates that they never saw coming. And unfortunately, the doctors just kept prescribing, never noticing. And now it's rubber band back so far the other way that post-surgery, they won't give you them.
No, correct. I've had 2 spinal surgeries since, and it's pretty rough.
When you really need them.
I had 3 neck surgeries, never got Percocet or anything like that.
And when you need them, that's when you need them. You know, I understand. Give them to them in a controlled situation. There are purposes for these
Correct.
things. But it's the abuse of them, obviously.
But I mean, I knew I couldn't keep doing this. Like,
Was it affecting your work?
I mean, not really, to be honest with you.
So for a long time, you felt like you were good because, hey, I could do this all
I mean, I
night,
was still-
and I could get up and go to work and be an effective officer.
I was still getting cases done. I was getting accolades for them. I was like, it started affecting my home life. But, my brain at the time told me as long as you're paying the bills and bringing home the money, then that's your job. And
You go to that default setting from when you were a kid.
yep,
well, that's addict justification.
it is. And I could justify anything back then. But I knew I had to get off of them. So I did, but that's when the binge drinking just went out of control because I didn't want to feel I just wanted to.
So you just took your one addiction out and replaced it with another.
Exactly. And, I didn't really understand addiction, but I mean, that's how it works.
What was your drink?
Anything with alcohol in it.
Oh, really? So it graduated from beer, a couple beers, to whatever you could get your hands on.
Yeah, I mean, the big alcoholics drink that everybody drinks is vodka because you can't smell it, which is the worst lie ever.
Yeah, you can smell it.
Yeah. But I would drink anything.